Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So for all you Audie fans, you know what? It's been raining all day. Guess where my bad boy is? I'm sure you'll be able to. Yep, he is over on second favorite chair, first favorite blanket. He's no longer really angry with me. He can't sustain that for any length of time, and he gave it up last night when, it was bedtime and he wanted snuggle. But he's not happy about the weather. I don't blame him. We had this run of 3 days in a row. It was over 90 degrees, which is unusual for us in May. And then suddenly the temperature drops, hasn't made it up above 60 in 3 days now. So he's just confused. I get it because he's already begun shedding his winter coat. Those 3 90-degree days did that for him. So now he's losing fur, and it's not even 60 degrees, so he needs it. And I imagine in his little kitty head, he's starting to think maybe something's drastically wrong here. But he's right across the room. He may or may not show up. I'm no longer going to try to predict because I always get it wrong. I guess we'll just have to see. All right. When we are through with the intro, which is 22 seconds, we will be right back and get going. So, this video is posted on the 24th of May. I'm filming it on the 23rd. And those of you who have been following my adventures in grocery shopping will probably know that 23rd is the day of the month when I started this. So my first month, I looked back to the previous month's spending. And that happened on the 23rd of the month, and that pretty much set my time frame for me. Saw that I had spent around $700, took the next month, so that's month 2 of my adventure, took the next month, just did my normal grocery shopping without making any changes to see if the previous month had been a fluke. Ooh, that second month came up, $700 too. And this is the conclusion of the third month. This is the month where I decided to cut it in half, so I needed to stay within a budget of $350. And I have some early lessons. So let me start with, yes, I managed to keep it under $350. And I did it by the skin of my teeth. It came to $249.68. It's like there's not even enough left over to buy a pack of gum. So yeah, I barely squeaked in under the wire. And I had to seriously stop shopping. I was just living out of my cabinets and my freezer for the final of those 4 weeks. And I did learn a lot. We're gonna have to look at it and see how useful these lessons are, but I am going to share them nonetheless. First of all, even though I knew intellectually what I was doing, I could see the numbers, I could look at that and say $700 is too much to be spending. I could say, well, $350 is a normal grocery budget. The emotional adoption of that was very different. And we've all been through this. We can just wrap our heads around something, but somehow our psyches are trailing way behind. And that's what happened to me. I thought I was going to be absolutely fine. I did not understand the genuine reality of cutting my grocery budget in half, suddenly like that. And it was a lot harder than I thought. The next lesson I learned, and this was unpleasant, is I am penny wise and pound foolish like my mother. Oh, by the way, for our British friends, we adopted that expression, brought it straight from British English into American English, and never bothered to change it. I hear people say penny wise and pound foolish quite frequently. I have never in my life heard anyone say penny wise and dollar foolish. Nope. We just adopted the whole thing and ran with it. I would say we borrowed it, except I'm pretty sure we're not giving it back. So, yeah, it's kind of like we own it now. The problem is, I think if you asked most Americans what that means, they would not say that we got this from British money. They would probably think of pounds in terms of imperial weights and measurements, not in terms of British pounds, as a monetary unit. But yeah, penny wise and pound foolish like my mother. I was standing in grocery stores, holding up 2 boxes of macaroni, trying to decide if it was really worth it to go up from the 77-cent box to the 99-cent box. And that was a foolish expenditure of my time. I would have saved 20 cents. By the way, I did, in fact, get the 77-cent box because, like I say, penny wise and pound foolish. If I hadn't, I would have simply spent an extra 20 cents. What I needed to do, which is what I was not doing, is I needed to look at other purchases, not the cheap pasta. I needed to look at things like fresh produce, which is expensive. I needed to look at like some of the varieties of fish I was buying. I like all fish. Maybe I could walk away from, the fancy, wild-caught salmon and go over to farm-raised salmon. Oh, probably not. But I could have put my time over to that. It would have been better spent than arguing with myself over 77 cents versus 99 cents. So I realized I'm getting caught up in the minutia, but I'm not really targeting the bigger problems. The cat food. I realized very quickly on I had to take Audie's cat food out of it. If you'll recall, when I started this adventure, I said, the cat food which just comes out of my grocery spending, that has to stay regardless. But here's the thing. Cat food is expensive because Audie is a picky eater. He's getting older. And these days, I would say about 80% of what goes into his belly is cat treats. And they are inherently a lot more expensive than cat food. But I am not going to balance my grocery budget at my cat's expense. He's got nothing to do with this. He's not the one who is misspending money. I am. So he shouldn't have to suffer for it. And eventually it just occurred to me that there was no way in the world I was ever going to economize on the cat food. So I just needed to take it right out of the equation. And as I say, I know I started off by saying it would remain in the budget. No, it won't. It won't. Because, like I say, I'm not going to economize on it, so I got to set it aside. Another thing, and this is back to I understand in my head, but my emotions are not following through on this. I had allowed myself an $80 a month budget for soda. I thought, $20 a week. That's not that big a deal. And even though I am not, I don't believe in girl math. I am not numerically challenged. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that a $20 a week soda budget was almost a quarter of my entire grocery budget. How could I not have seen that? So yeah, that one needs a big revision. Pardon my brief interruption. It's been raining all day. It rained all day yesterday, as I mentioned, and my allergies are not happy with this, so I took a quick little let me blow my nose break, which I'm sure you're glad I didn't see fit to share with you. So, is the soda going out altogether? Eventually, yes. I've decided I need to target this as something to remove from my diet for a wide variety of reasons, not the least of which is expense. But am I cutting it out completely? No, I'm just going to cut it in half for now, see how well I do on that, and then, if I'm okay with it, I'll cut it back by another half, and that'll get me down to like $5 a week in a soda budget. Financially, I can live with that. I can look at that and say, okay, yes, it's a little on the wasteful side, but not extraordinarily so. But yeah. And by the way, some of our viewers had told me that in the comments. They said, you got to deal with that soda because that's going to add up. And you were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, but I am listening to you now, and I guess better late than never. One of the other things I started doing, and this is the ongoing lesson portion, I started looking at what I am paying for food items as opposed to what the rest of the country is paying. Now, I am in the Northeast. You all know this, I'm sure. I'm in Pennsylvania. It's not quite as far north or quite as far east as I used to be when I was in New England, but still, Northeast, it is pricey here. And whenever I look up ranges of food prices, for example, I looked up apples, and apples were going for, in general, between $1.50 and $2.50 a pound. At my local stores, the low-priced apples, you catch apples like, well, the lowest price apples are Red Delicious, and they're selling for $1.99 a pound. Everything else is $2.29, $2.49 or more. I also discovered, because I just went down the rabbit hole, that the conventional wisdom, and we all know this because we took cooking classes when we were in school. My generation did that. So we all know this, that a pound of apples is about 3 medium-sized apples. Not around here it isn't, because I've been actively weighing apples in the grocery store. Even if I don't want to buy an apple, I will go over to the apple bin, I will pull out the smallest apples I can find and pop them on the scale. And no, they are not 1/3 of a pound. They're more like about 2/5 of a pound to 1/2 a pound. So basically the weight is like 0.44 up to 0.5 something or other. So that's about 2/3 to 1/2 a pound. Our apples are bigger here. Now, obviously you might think that's a good thing. Oh, a big apple is a good thing. No, it isn't. Not when you are looking at buying a single apple. And apples, see, the thing is, some fruits will keep, some won't. So you buy an apple, you slice it, you got to eat it right away, or you have to do something else with it, cook with it or whatever. So no, you're not going to be able to save that extra half an apple if you want to eat it later. It's not how apples work. So looking at that, there are two problems. Obviously, I'm buying bigger apples than I need. That's the obvious issue, and I'm paying more for it. But also, I'm eating more apples than I want. Now, it's all well and good to say, but apples are healthy, Sue. Yeah, I know they are. But still, I'm eating more than I want because I did not want to eat that apple that is like half a pound. I wanted an apple that was closer to a third of a pound, maybe even a quarter of a pound. I was specifically choosing the smallest apples still. So that's a problem. And I'm looking at this saying, well, this is grocery stores all over. They are encouraging obesity because the more food you eat, the more food they can sell you. So, yeah, I'm seeing a problem there. I'm also thinking that I really do need to go completely over to either frozen fruit or canned fruit. Now, here's the difference between these fresh apples and canned apples. Oh, and by the way, you can get canned apples. I don't know, a lot of people are not familiar with this, but you can get like apple rings, and you can get dried apples, you can get preserved apples. There are all kinds of ways you can get apple. That does not mean you have to go out and buy a bigger apple in the grocery store than you want. So I'm going to go over to that. I don't know how long this will last. I'm sure eventually I'll hit a point where I will just say, no, I want an actual real fresh apple. But I'm going to at least give it a try, because it has occurred to me that with apples, and as I say, my local apples are on the high end of that price line, with apples being pricey, with me being forced to buy bigger apples than I want, it's worth it to me just to try some alternatives. So that's one of my ongoing lessons. I will continue to check produce. I will continue to see if I can occasionally find a small apple. Yes, I'll buy it. But I've got to start watching that, because before I started doing this grocery shopping mindfulness exercise, I would just go into the store, look at that bin of apples, and pick out the nicest looking apple there, and it didn't really matter to me what size it was. Now it does. Another one of my lessons in this, and this is one that I just did this weekend. I went over to my freezer and I looked at how much frozen food I have in the freezer. The upside is it's almost all fish. When I gave you a tour of my freezer, there was processed food in there, but I decided I was going to take that out of my diet, so I might as well just use it up and be done with it and stop that. There is, I think, one package of frozen ravioli in there. But when I went in and looked at my freezer, I started counting. And I counted the number of servings. I didn't just go in, as I've done in the past, and say, well, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the other thing, I don't have to worry about it. I actually looked instead at how much I have. How many servings of salmon do I have in that freezer? How many servings of cod, etc.? And I did a count, and I could go for a month out of my freezer. And because there were over 30 servings in there, probably about 36 if I count that frozen ravioli. I have a lot of food in there. And it's not like it doesn't get used, but I'm not sure I'm doing myself any favors by stockpiling a month's worth of food in the freezer. That is something I've been doing that for a long time. I don't really know why. Do I need that much food on hand at any given moment? Well, probably not. But the thing is, when I'm buying food in that kind of volume, I shall go out and I shall get a week's worth of salmon or, a week's worth of cod and throw it in the freezer and, and so on. That is contributing to the expenses of my grocery bill. Because even though, yes, I have the food, I absolutely have it, it's mine, unless we have a power failure and I lose power to my freezer, it's not really going anywhere until I eat it. But it is encouraging me to buy more food than I'm actually using at the moment. Am I looking forward to a time when I will only have enough groceries for a week in the freezer? No. That's not part of the plan, and it's not really a motivating factor for me. I just do feel I need to cut back on this. It's almost like I'm becoming a food hoarder. Now, if I add the groceries and the cabinets together, I probably easily have enough ingredients in there to make a good 60 meals or more. And that's 2 months worth of food. Well, main meal food. Lord knows I have enough soup and whatever else, for lunches and sandwiches. But yeah, I could probably go for about 2 months between the cabinet and the freezer. That's not really doing me any favors. And I think that if I look at cutting down on that food hoarding I'm doing, it will probably give me a little more perspective on the shopping I am doing, and, it puts me more closely in touch with what I actually have in my home that's ready to be prepared. I don't know, I'm still at the early stages of this. I don't know if there will be an impact, because I've never done this before. I have never actually looked at this and said, maybe I should keep less food on hand. Maybe that will, encourage me to shop more cautiously. Mostly because my fear was always, if I have less food on hand, I will go out to the store and buy more food to replenish this. I don't know where this comes from. Unlike my mother, all our generation's parents, I did not grow up in the Great Depression. I never had a sense that my food supply was threatened. So where am I getting this from? I don't know. Did my mother communicate this to me, perhaps unconsciously when I was a child? I don't think so. But I need to play around with that and see if there is some connection between overspending and loading that freezer up. There might be. But again, this is an adventure. This is a learning experience. And I hope at the end of my 6-month period that I will be comfortable in my new budget. My new budget, by the way, and I never really thought about this until I had to live with it on a daily basis, is $11.66 a day. That's reasonable. Oh, and that's based on a 30-day month. Just, that's reasonable. Why would I want to be spending more than $11.66 a day to keep myself fed? I don't think I should have to do that. I don't think that buying food and bringing it home and preparing it myself is somehow priced out of that budget. But breaking the budget down from $350 a month to $87.50 a week, and then $11.66 a day, made it more real to me. Interestingly enough, it also made it a more attainable goal. And I don't have an explanation for that yet. We'll have to see. I think overall, other than the soda, and for all those of you who've been scolding me in the comments, I'll give you that. The soda absolutely was a major drain on my budget. Are there other things that were major drains? Well, produce that went bad before I could eat it. So I have not purchased an avocado in like a month. I have, however, gotten fresh fruit. I have an apple, a pear, and a banana sitting in my fruit dish. Bananas, by the way, have gone up in price, and I always used to go into the store and buy the smallest banana I could find because bananas don't agree with me. They're a good source of potassium, but they just don't agree with me. I like them, but I can't eat a lot of bananas. So I would get the smallest banana, and it was like 11 or 12 cents. That's what it was 20 years ago. And recently it's sort of crept up, and now the smallest banana in the store is 15 cents. So I have to revise my banana buying strategy. But I do still have some fresh fruit. And this is okay because, like I say, if I find a small apple, if I find a pear that looks halfway decent, oh, and I will pay more money for a pear than I will for an apple because I like them better. But I'm eliminating the produce that was going to waste. I am eliminating fresh spinach. I like fresh spinach, but I have frozen spinach in the freezer, and if I have a spinach craving, oh well, it's not going to be fresh. It's going to be frozen because that is not like dying in my refrigerator waiting for me to eat it. And I was losing a lot from that level of waste. So that's another one I'm working on. As I said before, I will go over to canned fruits as well. If you get them with it's like non-sugared syrup, there are canned fruits you can get that are not like laden with heavy syrup. I'm going to have to look at those. Also, because the cost of fruit fresh is so high, am I going to be stuck buying a can of inferior store brand, pears? No. I can go over and buy a better brand of pears. I can go over to some of the nicer canned or jarred fruits and still save money. And that's one of the other things I'm working on. I can buy my potatoes at Walmart, where they are cheaper than they are at other stores. There's probably not very much in the way of fresh produce that I will get at Walmart, but potatoes, at least that's out of the mix, because potatoes at Walmart were about 50% lower than potatoes at the regular grocery store I go to. I am also going to start checking out other grocery stores. So those are the lessons. It's still very, very early stages, but having identified the soda, and I know you all got it a long time ago, I'm just late to the party, but having identified the soda as a major culprit, having taken Audie's cat food out of the mix, which was causing me a great deal of stress because I love my cat. Yeah, I know, I'm a crazy old cat lady, but I do love my cat. I did not want my cat to suffer as a result of any of this, and removing him from the mix gives me peace of mind that I'm not going to have to deal with the expense of his cat food. That's making me feel better about this. Looking at things like reducing the volume of food in my freezer, gradually, shopping my freezer, eating more of that food instead of looking at that and saying to myself, ooh, I need to fill that freezer up because I see an empty spot in there. No, I need to set some kind of reasonable limit on how much food I want to keep in my freezer. I think I'm going to start off with 2 weeks worth of food. And by that I mean like 14 servings of food. essentially. So with my freezer, that's basically 14 pieces of fish. Oh, sorry again. I have been sneezing and blowing my nose all afternoon because of the weather. So pardon me yet again. So I think that's a good plan, a viable plan. Just make sure that my freezer is about half as full on a regular basis as it happens to be at this moment. That might work for me. I'm still learning, as I say. Oh, and I am totally open to any of your tips, tricks, suggestions, advice. Just let me know, because I need to find a way to work this out. I am making progress, but I can always make more progress. I can do better than I'm doing. And hopefully, with you helping me helping you, the community helping one another, we will all get there. Also, while all this is going on, I am tracking grocery spending. And yes, it is going up. That's just a reality. So if you're not on board with our let's reduce the grocery spending yet, I hope you will join us, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot worse in a few months. As I say, I'm already seeing the escalation. So that is what I have for you. That is the update on our grocery spending. Thank you for being with us. And for those of you who join us for Just Chatting, that's going to be 8 o'clock New York City time this evening. For those of you who just do the weekend videos, I hope to see you again next weekend. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out, and have a terrific day.